Around 3 months ago, me and my friends went to our local board game club and played the game Dune Imperium. I have always loved Dune, but have largely forgotten about it ever since watching the movies. My friends asked me about why they were collecting spies, what the war is all about, and I explained some parts that I haven't forgotten. While ruminating on this answer and playing the games, my interest in Dune slowly reignited. I went on to rewatch the movies with my girlfriend, and then I proceeded to read the book, and currently just finished Messiah. Suffice to say, Dune has managed to capture my interest, my passion, and my love for the second time. And I'm sure that I'm not alone. The story of Dune contains so much themes ranging from the dangers of religious fanaticism, to the effects of colonialism, and so much more. But today, I would like to talk about a part of Dune that I feel more relatable to me and perhaps to many others out there. I'm talking about the Butlerian Jihad, or the revolt against the thinking machines. Now, when I say relatable, am I saying that we are soon to be oppressed by an AI overlord and we will have to do a Terminator style revolt against them? Well, no, not necessarily. Not if we are careful about it. We live in a world filled with what I consider to be signs of the coming of events, quite similar to what's described in the book as the rise of the thinking machines. These signs include the rapid development of artificial intelligence and a phenomenon popularly known as Enshitification. So let's talk more about all these concepts in this video. Welcome to Dune. Is the Butlerian Jihad coming? Dune is set 20,000 years in the future. Yet, if you read the novel or watch the movie, you would find that there are no robots, no AI, not even a single computer. Well, that's because 10,000 years prior to the story of the movie, there existed an event known as the Butlerian Jihad. The Butlerian Jihad is a movement where humans fought against robots, or as the book calls them, thinking machines, and free themselves from their oppression. This revolt or war lasted around 2 generations, and after the humans won, they banned the creation of any more thinking machines, as started in the in-universe holy book called the Orange Catholic Bible. Once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. This verse comes from the dialogue between Paul and Reverend Mother from the original Dune book, and it gives the Butlerian Jihad a very crucial differences from other robot apocalypse. The humans were not only fighting the thinking machines, they were also fighting against other humans who used those machines to enslave them. But to get to that place, we have to talk about how those enslavements were possible in the first place. And a hint is given to us in the first part of that verse. Once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free. This quote suggests that what allowed the humans to be enslaved by the machines and their operators is the fact that the people have stopped thinking for themselves and have machines do it for them. And this is the turning point where the Butlerian Jihad comes closer to reality than in fiction. A side note, this is also why in the Dune universe, after the downfall of the thinking machines, humans heavily invested into mastering their own body and mind, resulting in human calculators or the mentats, the psychics, such as the Bene Gesserits and the Spacing Guild, and ultimately the Kwisatz Haderach. But now is the time to look back into our own world and look around us and ask the question, does AI really suck away our ability to think? There's no dancing around the fact that AI is totally helpful with our tasks, academical or not. In fact, many AI enthusiasts seem to promote AI for education. Even large organizations such as UNESCO seems excited to have AI for education. In a research by Natalia Kosmina from MIT titled Your Brain on ChatGPT, it is discovered that using AI such as ChatGPT for an extended amount of time can lead to decrease in learning skills. Natalia and her team set up 3 groups of people and ran them through 3 sessions of writing essays. Group 1 was given access to large language models, or LLMs. Group 2 was allowed to use only search engine and no AI, and Group 3 was only allowed to rely entirely on their brain. They then scanned the participant's brain using electroencephalography or EEG, and what they found was quite obvious but nonetheless still quite terrifying. Brain-only participants exhibited the strongest, most distributed networks. Search engine users showed moderate engagement and LLM users displayed the weakest connectivity. Furthermore, they found that the use of LLM had a measurable impact on participants, and while the benefits were initially apparent, as we demonstrated over the course of 4 months, the LLM's group's participants performed worse than their counterparts in the brain-only group at all levels: neural, linguistic, scoring. An article about the same research by Andrew R. Chow in Time revealed that Natalia is currently working on another research comparing brain activity in software engineering and programming without AI, and so far, the results are even worse. It's important to be critical of this research and take them on a specific context. The context here is that these tests are done on participants writing an essay, so it's on the academic side of things. But what if you're not a student and you don't really need to write essays? Well, that's where another research by Haoping Li comes in. Titled The Impact of Generative AI on Critical Thinking, the research found that while generative AI can improve worker efficiency, it can inhibit critical engagement with work and can potentially lead to long-term over-reliance on the tool and diminished skill for independent problem-solving. It also found that higher confidence in generative AI's ability to perform a task is related to less critical thinking. In other words, using AI while increasing our efficiency can make us rely too much on these tools instead of our own brain power, and that confidence in the AI's ability to help us is directly related to less critical thinking. If we look back on that quote from the Reverend Mother, once men turned their thinking over to machines, and tell me that this too research doesn't sound concerning. There are plenty of other research, theses, and essays out there regarding the use of AI and its impact on the human mind. There are even more cases out there of people from multiple generations all across the globe that has experienced this kind of brain rot that makes them feel like they're not really using their brain to do their task and just let the machines did it. This is especially dangerous for the younger generation, from elementary school to college, who doesn't really learn anything except for being good at making promises. Some people already say that nowadays your degree doesn't really matter, and what matters are the skill you learn through college. But if the students use AI, then what kind of skills or knowledge could they even learn? Allow me to get personal and say that I myself used to be a very diligent and passionate writer, be it for essays, theses, research, blogs, YouTube scripts, and even a whole novel. But ever since the era of AI began, writing doesn't really have that much value in it, both for the society and for me, because of how easy it is just to write a prompt and ask ChatGPT to do something for me. I even admit to the fact that I have been using ChatGPT in my writings with varying intensity. Although for the last few things I wrote, including this video, I applied a zero LLM policy for myself. Okay, but wait, we've established that using AI for extended amount of time does have the potential to reduce our thinking, and that the first part of the Butlerian Jihad summary can happen. But surely the next part of other men enslaving us wouldn't happen, right? I mean, these tech pros are clearly here to help humanity advances so we can go to Mars and have free healthcare and be a space-dwelling species, right? Right? Here's how platforms die. First, they are good to their users. Then, they abuse their users to make things better for their business customer. Finally, they abuse those business customers to claw back all the value for themselves, and then they die. This is what Corey calls Enshitification. Enshitification, also known as crapification and platform decay, is a pattern in which two-sided online products or services decline in quality over time. This description is so hard-hitting because it has happened multiple times that I'm sure that by reading these descriptions alone, you can picture or even imagine a brand that you have felt this happen before, personally to you. In his post, Corey described how it's happening to e-commerce platforms such as Amazon, from a cheap and very reliable e-commerce site into an ad-riddled, expensive maze of keywords that made it more of a hassle to both buy and sell products. In reality, this kind of decay can happen and has happened to other kinds of companies. After all, companies are companies and they operate not charity, but for profit. That goes the same for AI companies. In fact, the pattern is already here. An article by Investopedia revealed that ChatGPT has not been profitable. ChatGPT generates billions in annualized revenues but continues to be loss-making. This makes sense considering that OpenAI launched ChatGPT first as a non-profit in 2015 and relied mostly on donations. However, as one could guess, donations alone weren't ever enough to fund the computational power, let alone for a profit. And nowadays, ChatGPT has subscription tiers, and that is how business usually gets you. This subscription model, where we pay monthly to operate a certain software, is called SaaS, or Software as a Service. And Enshitification is so prevalent because it makes total sense. Here's a figure of how this process goes made by Peter Rupak on LinkedIn. The company needs more and more revenue to keep going while still making profit. But unless they want to pour in more money in order to upgrade their software and keep up with the competition, and prioritizing user first, then they will reach a point where the price is too expensive and the offered solution just isn't worth it anymore. And so the user quits, and the app dies. But what if the users couldn't quit? What if the user has relied so much on the software, so much to the point that they have relinquished their task management or even their thinking, aka their mind, for the software to do? AI has shown its capabilities of creating dependency. And we've only even scratched the surface by talking about thinking. What about people using AI to things other than thinking, such as to socialize, because they find that humans are just too judgmental? What about the people who fell in love with their character AI because other people and dating these days are just too hard to do? What about the people in countries where access to mental health therapy is so expensive that it just makes more sense to just use AI instead? They are unable to quit because it's just not worth it to quit. That is the danger of AI Enshitification. Other services have been able to make their users enjoy the benefits of their products, but AI is by far the closest thing to have us actually hooked on this product because it has touched on so many aspects of our lives, including not only thinking but also just being human in itself. Humans are greedy. That we cannot deny. And that greed can lead people to commit horrible things. If we take AI's potential to get us hooked, relinquish our ability to think critically, and the trend of Enshitification into context, then Dune's warning of the rise of the thinking machines should be taken more seriously. The Butlerian Jihad is more than just a background story happening in the background of Paul Atreides' story. It's also a warning, not to the characters in the story, but to us. I admit that this video talks about a rather dark topic, both in the Dune universe and in our own universe. But I promise you, I do not make this video to spread fear or to turn you into robot haters who yells out clankers with a hard R every time you see OpenAI's logo. You should, but that's not what I'm making this video for. So now I want you to renounce other, more hopeful verse from the Dune universe, which is I must not fear. Take this video not as a fear-mongering propaganda against the robots or the rise of AI, but as a reminder that we as humans should not abandon our bodies nor our minds to machines or to other people who are able to enslave us using these machines. Just as a bodybuilder go to the gym to train and exercise their bodies, so should we train our minds and exercise it. We should all constantly exercise our own brain by writing our own essays, doing our own tasks, and only using AI minimally on repetitive tasks. And even then, we should be careful and mindful that this usage of AIs doesn't really degrade our brain capacity. The Butlerian Jihad of the Dune universe takes place after the thinking machines or the AI has risen and enslaves humanity. But the Butlerian Jihad in this universe, in our universe, can happen right now, before they even takes over in the first place. Take this video as a reminder for you to use your brain. Before anyone else, artificial or not, make sure you can't use it ever again.